Great to be back in the Stewards room. Obviously, now this is the first episode where we're actually going to be looking at incidents from the previous round. But to be honest, Nick, I mean, considering we got 4 tiers, there weren't that many incidents to go through, and some of them were time penalty removals anyway. So a pretty good start, I think, from all the drivers.
Yeah, an extra tier. Not too much work for the stewards to do this week. Obviously, called first race of the season. There's drivers getting used to the unique rules that we have here at One Hub Racing. They're getting used to racing on track alongside each other. For some drivers, a complete new group of drivers. I know Jamie, although he has loads of experience, there's hardly anyone that he's raced against in the P4 tier. So there's plenty of new faces around, and of course that always brings challenges. And we race each other enough, Cole, where we know our limits, and we know drivers who sign up kind of regularly that we race season after season. We know, certain drivers always will push a bit harder or stick their nose in where they shouldn't. Where of course, when you're racing with a new group of people, you don't always know that. So you got to learn.
Yeah, exactly that. And one thing that I noticed as well is I was quite surprised how rusty I felt. Not so much driving, but more wheel to wheel. Felt a little bit rusty, and I'm sure I wasn't the only driver who thought that last weekend. By the time we were halfway through the race, I felt fine then. But, first race back after a bit of a break, drivers are always a little bit rusty as well, which is perfectly understandable. It even happens to the pros, doesn't it? So, but I was actually pleasantly surprised with the driving standards. Big shout out to the P3 tier as well. Not one incident reported, which is really good.
Yeah, really good to see when tier obviously is well behaved. But let's jump straight in. So for those of you who are new joining us, we're going to look at some incidents. Jess is in our ear, and everything you see on the screen she'll be bringing up for us as and when we kind of need it. And then Colin and I will kind of look at the incidents, the POVs that we have available to us, and we'll kind of explain how the stewards came to the decision that they came to. As we always say, this isn't about getting everyone to agree with us, because that's impossible. It's more about getting everyone to understand that we followed the correct process, and we're being as consistent as we can be with the rules that we've created.
Yeah, exactly that. It's about, we pride ourselves here on consistency. This is why we have the stewarding parameters, which decide almost for the stewards what the penalty is going to be. And in all fairness, it shows how clear it is, because I think it was Seiko who knew what penalty he was going to get, and he was right. And I think that is the key thing here. The drivers understand what penalty that they might receive, or another driver might, because we are controlled with our stewarding parameters. And we introduced this quite a few seasons ago, and I think it's one of the best additions that we have. And to be honest, I'm surprised this isn't adopted, or something similar isn't adopted everywhere.
Well, let's dive straight into it. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is from the P1 tier, Senna and Mertzi. So this incident was ultimately decided no further action, but a warning was given to Mertzi, as they felt the stewards felt he possibly did a bit of a reactionary move, but close enough to the braking zone where he was naturally also going to drift towards the racing line, and Senna perhaps had to play his part in interpreting what the car in front was about to do.
Yes, the only thing I was surprised about, and I don't know whether anyone else thought this, was I'm surprised it didn't just go down the inside. To be honest, that was my first thought when I saw the incident, but it was just a little late that he moves across to the racing line. Just a little late. Now, one thing you'll notice is that Senna did receive a warning for this. Because we believed that the manoeuvre by the Williams was a little late, we did remove that warning. as well. We didn't penalise Mertz. We just give a little warning, and we did remove the warning that Senna did receive.
Yeah, so ultimately, I feel like it's one of those incidents where, the stewards have a quick look at it and, look, there's nothing super naughty, so we don't need to, and at the end of the day, they raced all the way through turn 3 as well. So both were to continue racing, no damage done. So a little warning handed out, and of course we were able to remove the track limits warning that Senna received. So P2 tier. Now, Cole, there were 3 drivers kind of involved in a couple of incidents here. Kinney, Lawrence, and Salau. They entered the final lap. Kinney leading, Lawrence second, Salau third, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I think so, yes.
Yeah, and Salau ended up winning the race. So there was a couple of incidents that I think Jess is going to bring up, the Kinney and Lawrence. Now, there was another incident, Cole, between Salau and Kinney further on that we don't have the footage for. Kinney basically removed this after he submitted it. Is that correct?
That's right, yes.
Now, the stewards had brief discussions about it before it was removed. And what were their... No final decision had been made because obviously it was removed, but what were they thinking?
To be honest, we were leaning towards 3 seconds for Salo. Because he didn't leave a car's width. Now, obviously, we haven't got the image, the video to show you. But he just slightly drifted towards Kinney, and Kinney had to go on the grass. Now, it wasn't a major thing, but, if what I find a bit odd, from my perspective, is that I think Kinney deleted the wrong ticket. I think the one that he reported was. I mean, the stewards are very surprised that it was reported. To be honest, yeah. There you go. Let's see what Salo. Let's see. To see that he drifts towards the racing line too early. He's not 100% ahead. Now, if you look on board Salo, the arrow is flashing red and white. Now, if it's flashing red and white, that means he's there pretty much. You've got to, you're going to have to leave a bit of space. But if you look at this one, let's see, look, Kinney just turns in on that apex. Jess, I don't know whether you can pause it from Kinney's point of view, just at the apex of turn 1.
Yeah, so I only mentioned the other incident, Cole, because it's not often that a driver submits something and then pulls it back out the steward's office.
Yeah, very odd,
and it would have changed potentially the race win result. So that's the only reason I mentioned it. But the one that did stay in and the stewards did look at was this one here between Lawrence. So Lawrence comes down the inside. Nothing wrong with this move whatsoever by Lawrence.
No, I mean, this is the thing, like Kinney says, it's a dive bomb. That is not a dive bomb in any way, shape or form. It's not. It's no way. You can see he's actually ahead of Kinney at this point. Now, Kinney's got to make a decision here. He's either going to brake early and try and scissor Lawrence.
Keep it there, Jess.
Or he tries to hang it around the outside. Now, what he does, now, the interesting point, you're perfect, Jess, keep it there. Now, if you look at the racing line, Kinney is driving the racing line, despite the fact there's a car 100% on the inside. So what he's doing, he's turning in too early. What he needs to be, that red line, really speaking, his front right tyre needs to be just about touching it. So at this point, it's 100% Lawrence's corner. But Kinney turns in too early and he makes contact with the rear left of Lawrence. Lawrence he's not running wide, he's not dive bombed, he's fully ahead, he's fully in control of his car.
And he's keeping a tight line to the inside. Yeah,
he's keeping a tight... Exactly that, yeah. But unfortunately, I can see what Kinney's trying to do, and I would have tried the same thing as well. Unfortunately, the execution isn't quite there, and he turns in just that little bit too early. Jess, I don't know whether you can go a little bit slow, but move it forward a touch.
So I think had Kinney broken slightly later on the outside and carried a bit more speed so that he almost got parallel to Lawrence, he would then have had the inside for the second part of turn 2. So I think Jessie's going to do us a slow-mo here.
Brilliant.
Good, isn't she?
She's good as gold, isn't she, our Jess?
There's nothing wrong with that move by Lawrence. Oh, naturally, Kinney goes to the outside and then, turns in too quickly.
Yeah, turns in too much too early. There you go. Let's see. It touches him. Now, he's run wide now. But he actually goes and cuts the chicane and stays ahead. So if we watch it again, I'm a couple of seconds behind the stream, unfortunately, because I'm watching it not 100% live. So Kenny does the right thing, switches back to the racing line, but you can see he's turning in just a little too early. Lawrence is 100% on the inside. He hasn't drifted miles away from the apex. It's a perfectly sensible move. I was surprised that Kinney didn't defend this a little earlier, to be honest, and hug the inside. But there you go. See, look, that point there. So you look at the angle and the trajectory of the Williams, you can see it's actually going towards the apex. So that's not enough room to avoid the contact with the, I must say, the very, very good-looking pink V-carb. So just turns in a little too early. And then what he does is he cuts turn 2. The game issues a 10-second time penalty. Kinney does not give the place back and stays ahead. So Kinney requested... if you could play that, Jess.
Play it on, Jess. You'll see that, which I think at this point, the sensible thing, Cole, is to cut the chicane. But if you want to have that 10-second penalty removed, and the stewards would have removed it had Kinney let Lawrence back through, from my understanding. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. Because now if he slowed down... The thing is, if he slowed down and let Lawrence go, the game would have... see, look, illegal overtake on Lawrence, hand positions back. So if he let Lawrence go, the game would have gone, yeah, fair enough. But Kinney requested the 10 seconds be removed, but we believe that the game was correct because he did cut turn 2 to overtake and stay ahead of Lawrence. So we did not remove the penalty.
Alrighty. Well, hopefully we've gone on enough about that one. As I say, we're not here to criticize any driver. You know.
No, not at all.
All we are is here to, because at the end of the day, you're racing on lap 33 for the lead of this race. You know, if drivers weren't pushing to the limit, then, you know, we'd be saying, look, what is this guy doing? He just let the guy through. Do you know what I mean? So it's we've got to push on those limits, and all we're here to do is explain why we came to the decision we came to. We're not here to, you know, criticize Kinney or anything. You know, he had a brilliant race. So, you know, if it was Lukey involved, then we would probably criticize him more because it's Lukey. But
that's what Axel's saying. I'm here to criticize Lukey.
All right, let's move on to a pretty straightforward one. So Ocon, new driver to league. So welcome to him. He got a 3-place grid penalty, which is pretty standard, Cole, for a blocking during a qualifying. And I'm not sure if you listened to the Stewards show last week, but obviously we did mention this. So he's coming out the pits here, Cole. There's a car you can see on the mini-map on the left, approaching turn 1, who's on a hot lap, tries to get out of the way, but unfortunately he should have backed off within the pit exit sooner.
Yes, I did this myself on this corner about 4 seasons ago. And you're like, oh no. Just, you know, you're coming out the pit lane, right, let's prep my tyre. Oh my God, this guy behind me. It happens to all of us, even the experienced drivers. But this is, I know I've mentioned this before, but I think it's really important to bring it up again. If this was any other league, Ocon would have had a qualifying ban and he'd be starting last. But because we do these lobby resets, we can apply these better, more appropriate penalties. So Ocon on this occasion is going to get 3-place grid penalty, which is what it should be and what it is in Formula 1, I believe, 99 times out of 100. Yes, we can't apply it for the next race straight after, obviously. But this is why then it's planned for round 2.
Yeah, I think, Cole, it's always a standard 3-place grid penalty if you buck in quali. I think only once the stewards have had to applied a greater penalty, because I think it was in Saudi, and someone ended up blocking more than one driver during the final sector 3, and I think they then got a 5 or a 10-place grid penalty. But yeah, Jake mentioning in the track that maybe running the full running the full map of the track might have helped, because you can only see the dot appearing now, and at this point you're already at the pit exit. And look, it's one of those things. It wasn't done on purpose, and
No.
3-place grid penalty, and we move on. And I'm sure Jack hasn't thought too much about it since Sunday. So next one, Cole, I threw it in here because it's there's a bit of connection issue involved, which always makes it difficult for the stewards to come to a exactly who's at fault. But also it's lap 1, turn 1, and the stewards, I just wanted you to talk a little bit about how there's a bit more lenience for kind of lap 1, turn 1 sort of thing in terms of what you expect. But also, Cole, just if you can mention how, if there are connection issues, why we try to avoid penalizing someone, because we have seen in the past 2 different drivers' point of view show a completely different who's at fault.
Yes, and a prime example of that was last season with Dad and Matthias, because Dad put in a report against Matthias because he thought he wasn't left enough room, and he watched Matthias's view and he went, nothing wrong with that, and that's not where Matthias was on my screen either. So it does happen. This is why it's so important for everyone to share their footage and make sure they've got it saved. There is a number of occasions, I think there were 3 drivers who got 3-point deductions for their first offence of not supplying their POV. So my advice is maybe stream on YouTube or Twitch, but also save your footage. If you're on PlayStation, save it after qualifying and then save it again after the race. You don't need to upload it at that point, but maybe if you get pulled into the stewards and your YouTube stream died, you can refer to that instead. But yeah, regarding lap 1, turn 1, we know it can be messy, and especially if there's a connection issue. Like one of the incidents, Jamie, I think, was bouncing around a bit, and that put off a few drivers, which caused an incident. So for things like that, we are going to tend to go NFA. Jamie did realise that his internet randomly decided to switch to Wi-Fi instead of the wired connection, so that issue is resolved.
Yeah, hopefully Jess is able to bring up the footage of James's, and we'll just show you what we mean. So race start in the P4 tier here, Cole, and obviously heading down to turn 1. There's a lot of cars on the grid, and it does tighten up through the snake of 1, 2, and 3, and you will see the connection issues coming up, and a unfortunate incident, especially for a new driver to league. That's not how they want to start, but hopefully they'll be able to see in races to come that these things aren't normal. So you can see there's a connection issue, and then a car is just coming faster, makes contact. Fortunately no damage, but still not the way you want to start a race.
No, it's not ideal. Unfortunately, there are going to be occasions where there are racing incidents. Racing incidents happen with professional Formula One drivers who get paid £1 billion a second to do it. So for us amateurs, it is going to happen. It's really unfortunate for James. One thing I got to give James credit for keeping out of the barrier in this situation. Fair play to him. That's some really good driving, to be fair. Because when I first saw it, I thought, oh, he's going to go in the wall, and he avoided it. So fair play to James. That was good.
Alrighty, well, that's some of the incidents we've highlighted. That's kind of what we want to do each week. But we also, Cole, want to highlight some good examples of racing. And we're going to start with a fellow admin team member, Axlock, Cole. And we spoke about this in the first episode last week of Inside the Stewards Room, whereby, if you hand the position back, then the stewards will either go no further action, or if it's caused the other car damage and you hand it back, they will perhaps look at a lesser penalty. But in this incident, Axlock hands the position back. Now, when he actually saw the other car's point of view, he didn't actually think it was that bad, and he thought maybe I shouldn't have handed it back. But nevertheless, you can see there, and he lifts off, and look, he's going to lose the position to the McLaren. So similar to the Kinney and Lawrence, but Axlock decided to give up the position to the McLaren and then also let the car that he overtook through turn one unfairly back through. So you'll see it here from the McLaren down the inside. It's quite a late move. If it got brought to the stewards' call, we'd have to have a look at what point was he on the parameter on the inside at the point of turning. Was he 50% along the inside? But it was a bit of a late move, and ultimately he lets the McLaren and the car back through, and you know, a lot of respect gets shown for that.
Yeah, exactly that. I think that you know, I wind up Mark all the time, but he's a class act on and off the track, and this is a prime example. And I bet the Ferrari was like, oh wow, fair play. Now I wouldn't be surprised that, I think it's a Diageo. Apologies if I've mispronounced your name. Might have reported that, but he's probably seen Axlock. Oh, he's let me go. Oh yeah, fine, fair enough. Don't worry about it.
And there's no damage as well, isn't there, Cole? So
no, that's
it's
it.
only
Yeah,
a few seconds lost, but you know, that's racing sometimes.
Yeah, that happens in racing. You know, we see it week in, week out. That's a mad position for the camera, for the rear view camera. I quite like that. I might adopt that myself. But yeah, you can see. Yeah, it's quite a tight one, isn't it? That one we would definitely have to see on board Axlock and Diageo to get a clear picture if there's any fault on Axlock's side. But that one, comparing that to Kinney and Lawrence, is that Lawrence was alongside and ahead far earlier on that straight.
Alrighty, so let's jump over to Gaza on his double overtake that he's able to do. Obviously, Gaza, very experienced member of One Hub Racing, got plenty of stats, and you're going to see here with some DRS and some ERS, you're going to see some a double overtake here. So look at the overspeed, Cole, and you can see the guy. He thinks about the inside, car in front covers it off, and then look at that. So wheel-to-wheel contact, but you can see how Gaza turns in slightly later than what we were talking about earlier with Kinney's incident. He was then able to carry the speed, and they were, bit of wheel banging through the exit of turn two. But because the Ferrari, turned in slightly later, they were able to go side by side here.
Yeah, exactly that. And the Gaza is also significantly more alongside at the apex as well compared to Kinney's one as well. That's good driving by Gaza and Jason. Fair play.
And you can see through turn three, Cole, that Gaza's just leaving a car width all the way through turn three.
Yeah, that's it. I like Martin Brundle's explanation, actually, because we always say leave cars width. There should be cars width and a fag paper width. But no, fair play. You can see, look, he leaves. He's not on the apex. He's leaving a car's width for Jason. Is it Jason? Yeah, for Jason on the inside, but he gets the run down into turn four then. And Gaza's shown his experience there. That was a really good battle. Fair play.
Alrighty, let's jump over to Proverbs Switchback. So again, another driver who's raced in the league for quite some time, Cole. I always like watching a switchback because it means the drivers thought about what they're going to do before they do it. Whereas sometimes when you're sending it, you just kind of do it in the moment.
Yeah, I'm always more impressed with, like dive bombs. Yeah, they look great, but it's these type of maneuvers that impress me the most. I mean, look at that, absolutely brilliant. And Proverb back to his best. I think he had a bit of a struggle last season, but he's got back to his best and showing it with some great maneuvers like that. That really is
so goes slightly wide, doesn't it, the car? That affects the momentum, and then on the bracing line, Proverb breaks nice and early. The Williams tries to defend, goes deep, and it was well orchestrated, shall we say.
Yeah, you can actually see there. He does brake earlier to make sure that he can cut and come back on the inside as well, which is really good. And good driving from the Williams as well. Runs a little wide there, you can see, around the fast right-hander. And the Williams just outbrakes himself just a little, and then Proverb could do the lovely switchback.
Alrighty, and the last one we're going to look at is Jamie's front row seat. So I threw this one in there, not necessarily for a good example of racing, but a good example, Colin, of being absolutely aware all the time of what's happening around you with other cars and be prepared to react. And you'll see here on Jamie's point of view. As we're heading through this double right-hander, great couple of corners and yellow flags ahead, but look at this, cars bouncing all over the place, and Jamie able to react without losing his car as well.
Yeah, that's a really. You can see that he lifts as well. If you look at the throttle, he's like, "Oh, hang on a minute." Yeah, that's some really good reactions there. Fair play. I'm quite impressed with that. But you can see the accident ahead, and there's two things you can do here. You can either panic and slam on the anchors, and you could be ended up in the wall as well, or you're too late to react and you end up part of it. So you've got to have that fine line of trying to use it to your advantage, but not become part of the mess either. And the Ferrari driver here, you can see, makes very good work of it.
Yeah, because you can see a car actually in the inside barrier there already. So that's what brings out the yellow flag. And then further on, you can't exactly see what happens, but it looks like a car goes wide, comes back on track or spinning back on track. And then, 2 or 3 cars involved. And obviously ghosting is on, and that does help. But in these sorts of situations, Cole, you've got to be on your toes, especially lap one, because it can ruin your race. So, good job there. Now, that's everything from us, other than Austria next week, Cole, which is a league favourite in terms of we race here a lot. We always have good races, and lots of DRS zones. Sometimes can become a bit of a train. We're going to talk about the pit entrance, because unlike probably most other leagues and real Formula One, we have a different allowance here with the pit entry. But generally, Austria, what are you looking forward to about it?
I always struggle around this track, to be honest. It's probably one of my weakest, if not the weakest track. I don't know why. I wish I did.
Dad's whip here, though, usually.
Yes. This track, if Dad and I race together, it's the closest between Dad and myself. Yes, and Jess is in my year, and he's dead right. She's dead right, sorry. It was the scene of his first one-hub race victory as well, back in, I want to say, season 24, I think. I'll have to double-check that. And Jess's first league racing podium as well. So expect some good things from the Red Bull drivers in P3 this weekend. But it's a very... I always think of it as almost like a go-kart track, to be honest. That's what it feels like. Very fast, very flowing. I think strategy is going to be very, very important here. So I would make sure you get your strategy right, because you are going to get DRS trains here, and if you can undercut, you could undercut 3, 4, 5 cars.
I think qualifying is really important here, Cole, as well, because
it's
definitely one of the tracks that, with obviously the lobby restarts, if you select the softer tire strategy and the loading screen, you'll be able to do 4 runs first of all, because you'll have 4 soft tires. So anyone listening, make sure you do that. And also, Cole, because the track is so short, the gaps between pole position and the back of the pack are usually the least we ever see in league racing, because obviously the track's short. So nailing your qualifying not making that one mistake which costs you a tenth, which could ultimately cost you 4 or 5 positions around here in qualifying, it is really important.
100%. I mean, if we actually look at the qualifying times through the tiers last week around Spain, I can see half a tenth covering 5-6 cars. So getting the absolute maximum out of qualifying is going to be so important. And like Nick said, make sure you select the softer tyre strategy, because you can easily fit in 4 runs around here because the circuit is so short. And practice your ERS strategy as well. You know, take a look at there's some good YouTube videos showing good ERS strategies. Brendan Lee's a good example, because these extra hundredths and tenths are going to make a huge difference to your qualifying position on Sunday.
All right, I think Jess is perhaps going to just show us POV pit entry here around Austria, Cole, because unlike on the other tracks, we allow drivers not to have to stay within the white lines when they're entering the pits. We almost encourage drivers to take the racing line as normal as they enter the pits. So don't use that white line there. Just take it normal and come into the pits like you just seen. Is that me? Nope. Purple helmet in the Ferrari M125. So you can see there he took the racing line as normal and came into the pits. So obviously you are carrying more speed, so there's a bit of risk that you're going to end up on the grass. But the point is, Cole, is that we don't have cars slowing down at a blind corner when other cars behind are coming full throttle through.
Yeah, exactly that. And if you look, it's when you be slowing, you're going to be slowing right on that apex with drivers behind. And it's such a fast right-hander as well. It would cause absolute pandemonium. And you can see there, M125, he is outside that solid white line, which for this race is the correct thing to do and what we advise you to do. Just treat it like a racing line and then cut across into the pit lane. It is the safest way to do it, and you're not going to cause any issues either to yourself or to the drivers behind.
Awesome. Well, there we have it. This was episode 2 of Inside the Stewards Room. Big thanks to Cole for joining me, and hope everyone who was watching enjoyed. And of course, Jess in our ear, who's been showing you everything and showing you those slow-mos. So brilliant job from her. We best just run through our sponsors quickly. So Colin was talking about ERS management. Don't forget, if you want to get a setup for Austria, you can head over to Sim Racing Setups and you can have a look at that. Next Level Racing, big thanks to them for all their support over the years. Our new title sponsor, Delta.app. If you're over 18, make sure you download the app to start your investments today. Vespertine, of course, you can get some One Hub Racing merch, and we have loads of on offer for prizes for Season 28 and the Realistic Championship, which took place last night. Pure Sim Gear, of course, you get Sim Racing socks, Sim Racing gloves. I think your dad's got a pair of Pure Sim Gear gloves, Cole.
He does indeed.
And SimGrid, of course, we run all our championships through SimGrid, so big thanks for them for helping us. I hope everyone's enjoying these streams and you know, kind of gets the idea of why we do them. And as I said, we're not here to get everyone to agree, but Cole, if we can get everyone just kind of seeing our thought process and that we are trying to be fair and consistent within our rules, then that's the name of the game.
Yeah, exactly that. And just good luck to everyone this weekend. Practice your quali, practice your strategy, and our next stream will be Jess and I Sunday morning, and we will interview a couple of drivers and we'll go through the weather as well.
Awesome. All right, everyone, thanks so much for joining. Hope you have a nice Friday evening and weekend. And yeah, best of luck Sunday. Make sure you tune in to the pre-race show And then, of course, you've got your tiers racing at 3, 4:30, 6, and 7:30 p.m. on Sunday nights. Thanks, everyone. Good night.